This is an I Am Listening original podcast.
That you've got this amazing couple who it would have been entirely understandable in that moment of devastation, losing Abby, to sort of, just need to keep things simple and calm and navigate that. And the fact that they took that moment and managed to create Abigail's footsteps. I mean, I know I've said it before, but it just blows me away. They're incredible.
Welcome to A Journey with Abigail's Footsteps, a podcast about the difference this baby loss charity is making to lives across the country. I'm Nicola Everett, a very proud ambassador of Abigail's Footsteps, a charity that supports families at the most difficult time and provides training to healthcare professionals. Sadly, in the UK, it's estimated that 1 in 4 pregnancies ends in the loss of a baby. Despite that figure, it's still something that many find difficult to talk about, and families can face a wall of silence. We're hoping this series of podcasts will break down that wall. Parents will be sharing their own experiences, which at times may be difficult to listen to. But we will also hear their inspirational stories of resilience and hope, and how you can get involved in making a difference to so many amazing families. Welcome to episode 5, where we hear from some of the fantastic people who support and raise money for Abigail's Footsteps. My first guest on this episode is Cheryl Baker, who's a Vice President of Abigail's Footsteps and has helped to raise tens of thousands of pounds for the charity. Cheryl Baker, it's fantastic to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much for chatting to us. Would you mind giving us your title as far as Abigail's Footsteps is concerned? You have a very important role. How did you get involved in the charity as well?
Well, I'm a vice president. I don't know how that happened, I'm sure. And how I got involved, when David and Joe sadly lost Abigail, however many years ago, about 13 years ago, I think it was, something like that, I lived in Ighton in Kent, and they wrote to me. The address was Cheryl Baker, Ighton, I think, or even Kent. But anyway, somehow it got to me, and it just struck a bell, because when I gave birth to my twin daughters, one of them wasn't breathing, and had there not been a special care baby unit there, she may not have survived. It just touched me. I could have been David and Joe. I could have been one of the statistics, And also, I loved the fact that it was a small charity, but they were putting so much heart into it, which with the bigger charities, sometimes you kind of get lost, and you know that a lot of the money's going on, expensive buildings and paying loads of wages and things. And so I kind of favour the smaller charities as well. And it was in Kent because, I live in Kent. And they asked me to go along and present a wedding dress show that they were doing at Leeds Castle. And so that was how I got involved all those years ago. And they were lovely, absolutely lovely. The whole family were lovely, and everyone involved. And so they asked me to do other things for them. And I said very happily, yes, I would help. And so that's how I got to be vice president.
And as you say, you've been very, very involved in the charity from that day onwards. And many people may have seen you on television taking part in various shows trying to raise an awful lot of money. You've done superbly in how much money you've raised, haven't you?
I think more importantly, I've raised awareness, because I think that with such a tiny charity, you just need the word to get out so that people know the fantastic work that Abigail's Footsteps does, and why it's there and why it's so important. Because I was not aware of how many stillbirths there are every year. And it just opens your eyes. And like I said earlier, I could have been one of those statistics. I could have been that person that's baby is born asleep. So if I can do anything to help parents and grieving families to find it more comforting, because of the work that Abigail's Footsteps does, with the cold cots, with the counselling, with the training for the midwives, with the bereavement suites that we supply. And it's not just in Kent, it's nationwide. I'm really proud to be involved in Abigail's Footsteps, and will continue to if they want me to.
You've certainly broken many of the taboos, because I think it's something that you just don't want to think about, particularly if you are expecting a baby. You don't really want that idea to cross your mind, but perhaps there should be more open conversations about what what can happen. And as you say, through the charity, you've learnt an awful lot as well. And I know from my involvement, I didn't know those statistics before, and they are quite shocking, aren't they?
They really are. They really are. And when they made the film to show how you can and how you shouldn't deal with stillbirth, the first one, The Deafening Silence, it had nurses going, oh, well, at least you can get pregnant, and all these stupid things. And you think, oh, my God, the people did say that. And they need to know that there is a right way and a wrong way to deal with stillbirth. And Abigail's Footsteps is showing people the right way. And yet the statistics are pretty dreadful, really. I mean, there's that chance that even though you carry a baby full term and, all the tests you've done and every time you've gone and they've checked the baby's heart and it's all going fine, nothing wrong with baby. And then suddenly the heart stops and there's no explanation. And there really is no explanation. It's just a horrible situation. But any parent or anybody involved, the grandparents, the sisters and brothers, everyone involved, it's probably the worst thing you could possibly go through, to lose your baby like that. And, I keep harking back to it. I could have been that person. And so that's why I want to help Abigail's as much as I can.
We heard from David in the first episode that he and Joe spent literally a couple of hours with Abigail. To know that the money that you've helped to raise is providing those cold cots for mums and dads and other members of the family to spend so much longer with their babies, that must make you feel very proud that you're able to give the parents that opportunity that otherwise they might not have been able to have.
I'm not proud for myself. I'm proud for the charity. I think that the charity's done amazing things. It really has. And I think David and Joe should be given CBEs or OBEs or something for the work that they've done. Because like you said earlier, it's a taboo subject. People don't like to talk about it. It's quite hard-hitting, this charity, and what it does and how it helps. But it does help. That's the important thing. It gives you time, especially in the bereavement suites. I mean, it's, hopefully they can stay even for days in the bereavement suites with their baby because they've got a refrigerated cot. They can dress, they can take foot imprints, they can make memories, they can take photos. No parent should have to go through it. But thank goodness Abigail's Footsteps is there to help those that do have to go through it.
It's all about not just raising money, but raising a huge amount of awareness as well, isn't it?
It really is. And it's thankfully the word is getting out. People are now starting to understand that, if you go back like years and years and years, they would take the baby away straight away as if it hadn't been born. They would take it away and you'd never see it again, as if it didn't exist. How awful was that? So thankfully we've come on leaps and bounds, and with the help of charities like Abigail's Footsteps, you can spend time with your baby, you can grieve properly, and you can have all those make those memories so that baby is never forgotten.
Tom Gower raised money for 2 cold cots in memory of his son Oliver. The Abbey cooling cots have been so vital for an awful lot of parents to be able to spend time with their baby. How important was it for you to be able to raise funds to provide one of those to the hospital?
The cool cots themselves, I'd never even heard of these before, obviously what happened. And when Oliver was born, it was all a bit of a whirlwind, didn't really know what was going on. We were all over the place, to be fair. But to have that little bit of time with Oliver, I think you can be as short as long as you like. I think you can go into days that you can spend time with your child. We needed it, to be fair, and we didn't think we needed it, because as soon as you hear, you just think, no, let's just move on, sort of thing. But you needed that time with Oliver. So hearing that what we were getting in terms of the counselling, even all the call cot, anything to do with I think even the suite that we were in, because we were in Down the Valley as well, it's not something that's provided by the government. It's something that the charities donate. So as I said at the start, it was really important for us that Oliver's name goes on. So we continue to have events. We have for the last 4 or 5 years. We've got an annual golf tournament, an annual darts tournament, my favourite. I've done a few runs as well. And we have been able to, I think we've 3 maybe, cots that we've donated. And we recently, only last weekend, we donated a cot to the Darren Valley, which was massive for us. And to be able to be there to present it, not great being in that room again, but to be able to present that meant so much for us. It was kind of nice to give back, and it was a personal thing for us. And to have his plaque, we actually found out that, unfortunately, that cot was used before we did the presentation, and the family that used it wanted to personally thank us for what we've done to give them that time with their child. So, and again, straight away, it's like, well, that's what it's all about. You know, there isn't, what we're doing here or what we've gone through, there isn't a cure. To be able to give something back was, just great for us.
You mentioned there the plaque on the cot. If you can just explain a bit more, because every donation, parents get the opportunity, don't they, to put a plaque on there and saying who it's in memory of.
Yes.
So does it just contain Oliver's name, or have you put a little message? What did you decide?
There is a little message. And again, what I said before, I think knowing that you're not the only person that's going through it or has ever gone through it probably helps in a little way.
And to know that, I mean, you'd hope to think that cot was never used, but to know that it has already been used and benefited a family, and they wanted to say thank you to you personally, I guess that really brings it home, doesn't it? That
100%.
This is something, unfortunately, that is going to be used on a very regular basis, but what you've done has had a huge impact on many other people. They can have those vital memories that, as you say, it might be a few hours, it might be a couple of days, but they've got those memories then for the rest of their life.
Exactly. It's all we can do. You know, where we are now, we can't cure it, we can't stop it. All we can do is support people that are going through those times. And again, the fact that Oliver's name is known and is through all our friends and family, and that's what we wanted. You know, he's always going to be part of our family. We're doing good stuff in his name. That's all we can do.
Sophia Burke's son Tom was born sleeping in September 2021. She decided to start fundraising so other families had the same support she did. Sophia, thank you so much for being part of the podcast. If you don't mind, could you just tell me a bit about your story and what happened to your baby son Tom?
Yes, so we fell pregnant with our second child, and naively, our first pregnancy with our son Frank was pretty textbook. Everything went to plan, and we thought exactly the same would happen with our second. And I had all of the routine scans, and that was all great. And then I got a call one day to say that they'd like to do a follow-up appointment. So I didn't even think anything of it. And then, I said to my husband, there's no need for you to come because everything's going to be fine. They're just going to check that and we'll be fine. We've had this same appointment before. So I went to Darren Valley Hospital expecting everything to be fine, and was told that we'd actually lost our son and they weren't able to find a heartbeat. Everything sort of came crashing down around us then. Luckily, we had at Darren Valley, Sharon, the bereavement midwife there, was absolutely fantastic, and she sort of guided us through the whole process and what was to come in the next few days. And that's when we were introduced to Abigail's charity. Since then, they've just been a really big part of our lives.
You mentioned there the support that you received from that bereavement midwife at the Darren Valley Hospital. Do you think you could explain to us how important that support was at that time, that you were given that support immediately as soon as you found out that devastating news?
It was really instrumental, and I think that's one of the biggest things, which is why we sort of fell in love with Abigail's and the work that they do, and Sharon, because the relationship that they have together, and the way that they're able to look after people that find themselves in the same situation as us is instrumental in how we're able to cope, navigate, and make sense of everything. Without that, and sadly, from our own experience, we found out from friends of family and colleagues, and I watched so many documentaries on miscarriage, baby loss, that it's just not the same. Not everywhere has that same support as what we'd have had. And it's just crazy that based on our postcode, we were really lucky in the fact that we were so well supported by Sharon, the bereavement midwife at Darrett Valley, and the relationship that she has with Abigail's Footsteps, to make sure that we had all the support that we needed to be able to, move on and make sense of our new normal. Sharon introduced us to Naomi, and we received 6 funded counselling sessions, which was just instrumental for us, being able to talk about it, and be given tools to help us sort of navigate our future, really, question things that we never ever thought that we'd dream of, like being able to have to deal with, like questions like how many children have you got, and just so many different things. And just, it was great for my husband also to be able to, have that access as well, because I think the partners can often tend to take a back seat during this whole process. And he felt really supported by Abigail's too at every step of the way. Naomi was just fantastic with us.
You mentioned there, Sophia, it felt like a bit of a postcode lottery as to whether families get that support, which is just awful to think that depending on where you live, whether you get that support or not. When did you make the decision to fundraise and say, we really want to help other people?
I think it was not shortly after. I think it must have been about a week or two after Tom's funeral. We were sitting there thinking, like, what can we do? We feel like we need to do more. And we said, it'd be really good to see if there was anything that we could do to help support Abigail, because that's who we felt had helped us the most during our process. And then I reached out to Becky and Faye, and I saw that they were doing the London Landmarks Half Marathon, and I said, do they have any spaces? Which they replied yes, which was fantastic. So my husband and I, signed up to take part in the April 22 London Landmarks Half Marathon. And it was just fantastic for us because, one, we were able to, create a conversation around things, which is quite a difficult topic for people to speak about. And then also, obviously, raise money, but also for us, it was great to have an additional focus, and also to exercise, be outside, all things to sort of help our own mental health. It just seemed to be a great pairing. And it was brilliant for us. And we received great support from the girls at Abigail's to make sure that we had everything that we needed. We initially started to, at first we were like, we would love to be able to raise enough money to get Abby cooling cots. And then as our fundraising really started to kick in, we were like, oh no, it'd be great if we could then train 20 midwives. And then we were like, oh God, we think we can throw some counselling too. So we were just really just trying to push all avenues. And in the end, we managed to raise enough money that we could do all 3 of those. So we could get an Abby cooling cot, get train 20 midwives, and provide counselling for other families.
What does it mean to you, Sophia, to know that you have been able to do that?
Yeah, it means the world to us. It really does, just because we know the importance of it and how much it can help. So just to know that we are able to, if we can make somebody's lives and other families' lives that little bit easier during such a horrific time, we feel blessed that we're able to do that, really.
The team at Abigail's obviously do fantastic work, and they mentioned that you wanted to talk about support that you've received when you went back to work as well, because that must have been a really difficult time for you personally. Are you able to speak a bit about that as well?
My director is absolutely fantastic. I work in a predominantly male environment, and the average age was probably under 25. So, it was really quite daunting at the idea of having to go back into work. You leave work on I work part-time, so I left work on a Thursday, and then, to go to just be off for a certain amount of time, and then you've got a big belly one day, and then the next day you're not pregnant, and you don't have your baby to show for it, but you've got to show face. Was really quite challenging. I really struggled with that. But I was so well supported, and my director Jim, he actually delivered training to some of the staff and spoke to them about what that might be like for me to come back to work, what they might, if they did feel the need to stay something to me, what that might be, just giving them sort of tips and pointers so that, not only so I would feel comfortable going back, but also the other staff, because, it's a really close-knit team, but, not everybody knows predominantly something that's so not spoken about. Not many people actually have the skills or know what to say in this scenario. So it was really great to know that that I had that support and that the team felt it's a comfortable and safe environment for everyone. And then also, it was great for returning to work, but also he was fantastic in being able to say that there was no rush for me to return and just to take as long as I need. No, because Tom was born at 23 weeks and 3 days. So he still falls under a miscarriage rather than a stillborn. Once you go over that stillborn phase, like timings would change with your return to work. But he was really supportive, and there was no real push for me to go back. It was just everything was in my own time. And then also it was also encouraged that if I wanted to work from home, I was able to do that. I just felt so well supported. And, I've spoken to friends that I've met along the way where they've not had that support. And it just, I actually don't know how we would have even coped had I not been so well supported.
It's really lovely to hear that you were so well supported, because we've heard from many people who, as you mentioned there, didn't get that support. And I think crucially, as you said, there was training given to other members of staff about what to say, because one of the key themes that we've kind of heard throughout the podcast series is that a lot of people just don't know how to respond to this sort of situation. They don't know what to say. So that must have been amazing for you to go back and know that other members of staff had that training, and that, you were just able to talk to them normally.
It's just such a weight off of your mind. You're battling so many things that just is another thing that's taken off of your plate and just gives you some comfort at a really difficult time. So it's been really good to be able to be so supported. That little understanding goes such a long way for families which are really suffering.
Baby loss charity Abigail's Footsteps offers counselling for grieving parents and specialist bereavement training for midwives and healthcare professionals. With compassion and care, Abigail's Footsteps has provided solace to countless bereaved families across Kent and the UK. Their Abbey cooling cots have allowed hundreds of parents to cherish precious moments and make memories with their baby, additional time they thought they might never have. Your generous support, help and donations will make all the difference in enabling this incredible Kent charity to continue their invaluable services. To learn how you can make a meaningful difference and support Abigail's Footsteps, visit their website at abigailsfootsteps.co.uk.
Next, we can hear from Matt and Gavin, who both work at Skilled Careers, which made Abigail's Footsteps their charity of the year. Gavin and Matt, thank you so much for agreeing to be on the podcast. You've done some fantastic fundraising for Abigail's Footsteps. Gavin, I wonder if I could just start with you. Why did you decide to make Abigail's Footsteps your charity of the year?
Because last year, Abigail's had helped two of my friends through a personal situation, and he was fundraising for Abigail's. And I thought, well, we could get behind that and support that as well, as I've been friends with him for a long, long time.
And Matt, are you able to tell us a bit about some of the things that you've been taking on? I mean, you set yourselves quite a high target as far as fundraising is concerned, didn't you?
Yeah, so the target for this year was £20,000. We have just finished the London to Paris cycle. We're 6 of us from Skilled Careers to go on over a 3-day period. And then earlier in the year, we took on the Yorkshire Dale 3 Peaks, which is the 3 peaks in the Yorkshire Dales, to over 12 hours. It's quite some good challenges. And then we're having some internal fundraising as well, such as like Dress Down Fridays, where everyone kind of donates some money out of their salary, and having cake sales and bits and pieces like that as well.
And Gavin, what does it mean for all of the staff to get involved and raise money for charity? Is it something they enjoy doing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there's numerous reasons why they enjoy it. Obviously, the main thing obviously is hopefully raising a good amount of money for a valuable cause and a worthy cause. But also, it's I think they enjoy the endurance events, and it's good for team morale, and it's at the same time while doing something for team morale and something that's fun, we're also able to do some good because of it. So yeah, it has a huge impact, and I'm sure next year will be the same when we pick on next year's charity.
We've been hearing throughout the podcast series about the amazing work that Abigail's Footsteps does and how it supports so many families. Is it a charity that you'd heard of before a member of your staff received support from them?
No, it wasn't at all. And we actually reached out to Abigail's about other events, but I think because they're a small charity, they struggled to get places at London marathons and places like that. So prior to my friends going through what they went through, I'd never come across them. But obviously, they provided like counselling and support through a difficult time. It was greatly appreciated and helped. So I thought it was a great cause.
And Matt, what's it meant to you to raise so much money over the past 12 months?
It's been amazing. From setting ourselves the challenge earlier this year to raise the £20,000 mark to see us now over the £20,000 mark as well. For me personally, has just been truly outstanding to see the support and the generosity of people outside of skilled careers kind of get behind their loved ones and help raise money for, again, a charity that they may not have heard of, but when they start reading about it, they realise that how amazing a cause it is.
And what events did you take part in, Matt?
All of them.
Every single one. What was your favourite?
My favourite, I would say, is the London to Paris cycle. We only really started cycling 8 weeks ago and then took it on last weekend. So to do something like that was, for me, on a personal level, was amazing. The walk, it started off well, but after horrendous blisters, it didn't end too well. It was worth the pain to raise the money.
Absolutely, and as you say, you've broken your target. You've done absolutely fantastically. Have you learnt a lot about what Abigail's does as well throughout this whole process? They've
been great. They've provided us information and they supported us through our social media campaigns when they got involved with videos that we were posting, and our social media team had reached out to them and got them involved and managed to edit some videos and stuff. So no, they've been really good, and I'm sure every charity's got great teams behind them, but it's definitely been a real positive experience.
And it's good to get the breakdown from them as well to see where the money's going. I believe there's a cooling pot coming soon from the money that we raised. There's been some of the training that they provided, we've helped fund that as well. It's really insightful to see where it goes.
I think that's sometimes, isn't it, with fundraising, you're not too sure what that money goes towards, and it makes a huge difference when you actually know what you've done for that charity and how much it means to them.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's great. That's why it's so good working with these smaller charities that don't have the reach of some of these massive ones everywhere. You feel like you are really making a difference.
Jack Jeffrey is one of the charity's leading fundraisers. He's been raising money since his daughter Olivia died. So can you tell me a little bit, Jack, about what you've been doing and how much money you've raised for Abigail's?
I don't know the total, but basically 2 years ago, not last year, the year before, straight away kind of wanted to give back, because obviously it was quite fresh at that point, and I wanted to give back straight away. So I signed up for the London Landmarks and set a target of, I think it was like £1,500, and I'm thinking if I can raise that, knowing kind of, because you get a sheet of kind of what it means of what £50 can get you counselling sessions and things like that. So knowing kind of what that money would mean, and then given how I am on social media in terms of just sharing stuff about Abigail's anyway, I was just relentless with social media, and my wife kept actually telling me off, saying you're going to annoy people, and I was like, well, if I am, they're not going to tell me, so I'm not going to know about it, so I'm just going to carry on, because at the end of the day I'm trying to raise money for a charity. So if someone actually has the front and heart to say something to me, then I'm not sure what I'd say back. So I was just relentless with sharing it on social media kind of weekly, and just kind of getting people to because obviously not everyone's on social media at the same time, so I might share it once and someone might not see it, but then if I share it in a couple of weeks, they'll see it. And it was literally just sharing, and I've got kind of a good network at work as well. And I was fortunate enough that an agency that we work with, they sponsored me like £2,000, I think it was. So straight away, within a few months, my number just went up, and I was like, oh my God, like it was at 3,000, and then it was 4, and I was like, I just kept changing the target because I didn't want it to stay at like £1,500, and then kind of come the day and afterwards, I ended up raising, I think it was £8,500, and I could never put into words what that meant for the support that I had. And obviously, yes, I got one big donation from the agency, but the rest of it was just kind of people knowing what me and my wife had been through. I guess it just shows the power of social media, because there was people that were donating that they don't necessarily know me or they're not friends with me, but they could see why I was doing it. Obviously, what we'd gone through, but more importantly, what it was then doing to Abigail's and what it would mean. So I ended up raising kind of, I think it was £8,500, just under, and it meant that I also was I was in the top 5 fundraisers for the London Landmark. So I wore the number 5 bib, I think it was, and I was right at the front at the start. Obviously didn't stay at the front, but it's just good that I can give back to, and I won't stop. That's the thing. Like if I signed up to the London Landmarks again, I'd do exactly the same. And it's not me saying that I'd raise another £8,500, but I'll never stop kind of spreading the word about Abigail's and raising money for them, because what they done for us off the back of like the worst night of our lives it's just support and help that we will never forget. So the absolute least I can do is just continue to give back. This year they've asked me to be an ambassador as well, which I'm really proud of. So hopefully I can raise a lot more money for them in the future. Sorry.
I was going to ask what it means to be an ambassador. It's a real honour, isn't it, to be asked by a charity that supported you to go and share, kind of word on what they do. Yeah,
absolutely. It was caught me off guard a bit, really. It kind of it choked me a bit, because I was just. They kind of said, like Faye and Becky kind of said, look, you're doing this anyway, and it's not a job, it's not a commitment. We just, anything that kind of we're doing, would like you to share on your social media, and kind of just constantly be kind of sharing stuff. But like I say, I was doing that anyway. But just to be asked to be an ambassador, it was a really proud moment for me, and my family, my mum, dad, and everyone was kind of really proud that I could kind of become a bit more part of the family, because it like Tom said earlier, Abigail's does feel like that. You feel like it's a little bit more personal, and the girls have been brilliant, like Faye and Becky. They've been amazing. I first met them and I was like, I wish I'd never met you, but I'm glad I did now, in terms of that I can now move forward and just continue to help them raise the profile of Abigail's, because they do an amazing job. They do an absolute fantastic job for the size of the charity. In terms of, I would say, I don't know too much about charity sizes and that, but I think they're still relatively small charity. But what they do in terms of the events they put on, like they done a golf day, and the amount of money they raised on that was like £13,000 in a day or something. And again, I'll do everything. I took 5, 6, I think I took like 20, 24 people there. So it's great to be able to just give back to them, because they do an amazing job of just constantly raising the profile of Abigail's. And if I can help do that, and if it can mean that one person takes advantage of it and uses Abigail's, then job done, right? So we'll continue to do what I can.
Anthony Chapman is an ambassador for Abigail's Footsteps, but also has an even more important role in being the charity mascot. Anthony, thank you so much for being part of the podcast. I was wondering if you could just tell me a bit about your association with Abigail's and how it started.
I started working with the charity back in 2019. I've known Becky for a number of years through other charity work, and she approached me back in 2019 to ask whether or not I'd be interested in working with the charity, especially around the mascot, which they were looking at establishing as part of the 10th anniversary for the charity. So because I worked as a mascot with another charity, I was more than happy to do that. And because of the size of Abigail's, I like sort of being close to everybody in the charity so you can actually see where the benefit is going. So more than happy to work with Becky and Faye and the rest of the team.
And I know for a fact you've done some fantastic fundraising, but many people may not realise it's you because, as you say, you become the Abigail's mascot. For anyone who hasn't seen it, just describe it for us.
I am the 6'6" Abigail bear, which is my large furry friend and is a fully enclosed, thick teddy bear costume with a full head, with just enough vision to be safe to walk along and limited vision for running. And yes, I've done a number of exercise challenges, should we put it that way, wearing the costume. So around the streets of London and also in the Midlands where I live.
I think you probably did the London Landmarks half marathon quicker than I did, to be honest, Anthony, and you were dressed up as the bear. You did very well, and it was rather warm, wasn't it? That outfit gets quite hot.
Oh, it gets very warm. I have to have my own liquid carry inside the suit. We actually designed the suit specifically so there was some room inside to carry. But yes, any opportunity to take the head off just to take the temperature down a few degrees is always useful.
Let me into a little secret. Do you go out training dressed as Abigail as well?
As long as nobody can hear this, yes. Local streets, people have seen me dressed both in the running outfit that Abigail wears and the bow. And prior to that, the pink tutu as well.
Fantastic. What does it mean to you to be involved in the charity in such a big and very visual way and to be able to raise so much money for them at the same time?
It means an awful lot. I've been in the fortunate position of not needing the actual support personally of the charity, though I know people who have been in those situations. And the whole ethos of the charity, wanting to help the parents who unfortunately are in those situations. And because I work in the NHS, I had seen it and see it from the other side. So it's actually good to put something back into local communities to help the parents in one of their darkest hours. So putting something back and not wanting to give anything more than the time, because time is very precious for everybody. So I give my time and a little bit of sweat, and everybody benefits.
Absolutely. And to be an ambassador as well, that is a huge honour, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely is. Based in the Midlands, it gives the wider area and cover for the charity, because obviously, whilst it's based in the southeast in Kent, it reaches out to hospitals across the country, and the need for the support of the charity across the country is very much there. Honour as the ambassador to spread the word, to represent the charity at events, and to be there if a cot is handed over at a trust. It's very, very important just to keep spreading the word. You can't say enough about the charity.
Absolutely, and I know you've become, with Abigail's Bear, a very big celeb on the social media. I love seeing the pictures of you when you're out and about, posing for lots of pictures, especially around the route of London Landmarks. You were very popular, weren't you?
Oh, absolutely. Hashtag Abigail's Bear. Get plenty of coverage, plenty of likes, plenty of shares. And at the end of the day, the kids love high-fiving, the opportunity to stop and shake a pom-pom with other charities, etc. It's great fun, and again, it just raises the profile of the charity name and the public persona of the bear and the work that the charity does.
So obviously London Landmarks is where an awful lot of people might have seen you, but can you tell us a bit about some of the other challenges that you've been doing for the charity?
Yes, well, probably the most unusual, I undertook an alternative triathlon as half bear, half man, where I actually did the equivalent of a triathlon in Abigail Bear. We swapped the swimming element for rowing, so I rowed the same distance in a costume. I then, because of the limited vision that I mentioned, we did the cycling on an exercise bike in a gym with a number of other supporters, keeping me going for what seemed like an eternity. And then I went out on the street straight after and ran the half marathon in the costume around the local town. So it was near enough 8 hours of half Ironman, half bear. That's probably the greatest challenge.
And I'm sure you're going to inspire many other people to get fundraising as well, Anthony. So thank you for all that you do for the charity. I know it's hugely appreciated. TV's Julie Etchingham is another very proud vice president of the charity. Julie Etchingham, thank you ever so much for joining us. Can you tell me a bit about your role at Abigail's?
Well, I've been very honoured to be involved with Abigail's Footsteps almost from the beginning. I think I have this very grand title of vice president, but I'm just really a very avid supporter of Abigail's Footsteps. And it was purely because in the year that David and Joe set the charity up, having lost Abigail in 2009, they just got in touch with me at ITV News. And there was something about, it's just the most heartbreaking story, isn't it? As every family who has been affected by this knows. And they were just such a lovely couple. And they said, would you consider giving us a bit of support? And we're setting up this charity. And I said, I'd be absolutely delighted. They told me their story. And I think, at the time, my two boys were still very little, and it's just one of those moments when if you put yourself in somebody else's shoes and you think, I cannot believe that they've had to navigate such pain and then have found the strength to start a charity to support other families. I mean, to do that in the depths of their own grief, really, it sort of blew me away. So I was really very honoured to help them.
Now, we were both very lucky to be at a rather lovely reception at the House of Lords, and you spoke so passionately about the charity, but you also told quite a personal story that had affected you. Would you mind sharing that for us?
No, not at all. And this was, during the pandemic. A very dear colleague and friend with whom I've worked closely for years was expecting her first child, and out of the blue I knew that the baby was about due, and out of the blue I got a call from her to say that she'd lost the baby at birth, which is, the conversation never really leaves you, does it? It was amazing because she said, aren't you involved with a charity that supports families who suffer stillbirth and neonatal death, and she said, I just wonder if there's anything they might be able to do to help support us or whatever. And I said, right, just leave it with me. And I picked up the phone to David and I said, look, I've got this really dear friend. She's right in the middle of everything that you endured. Is there anything you can do? I mean, this was literally in the middle of an evening, and Dave just dropped everything he was doing, immediately wanted to know which hospital it was, which consultants my friend was under. He immediately organised counselling support. I mean, it was like an emergency service. It was incredible. And it tells you everything you need to know about David and Joe, that they will always just drop everything if somebody is in that spot, because they know immediately what it's like to be there. He dropped everything. He got so much organised just literally overnight for my friend and her husband. So, not only have I seen the charity develop over the years and touch so many lives and families, but I've seen it firsthand, and I've seen, that passion in that moment of emergency, in that moment of crisis, what they are able to do. And it was just absolutely inspiring. I just thought, goodness, what an amazing resource for somebody who is in that darkest hour that Abigail's Footsteps provides. It was just incredible.
Was your friend able to say afterwards how much that meant to her and her wider family?
Yeah, absolutely. And, one of the most important things that David and Joe were able to provide there was counselling. And, as any family who's been through this will know, it's having that understanding, professional help in those first days, weeks, months. And, there is never a time limit on how long it can take for people to deal with such grief. But it was the counselling support that I think was just incredibly valuable. And, they will never forget it. They will endlessly be grateful and in Abigail's Footsteps debt for it.
Now, you've also helped to raise an awful lot of money for Abigail's Footsteps, the London Landmarks Half Marathon. You are much faster than me.
I'm sure I wasn't.
How have you found that?
Well, that was incredible, and it was just a lovely thing to be able to do. I mean, if most of my friends, when I said to them, "Oh, I'm doing a half marathon," you could see that look of sort of really go across their faces. But it was such good fun. I never dreamt I could do something like that. I'm not a very sporty person, but it was just great. And the thing is about Abigail's is that it's actually the thing I love about it. There's millions of things I love about it, but they're so well organised. They had a place for the London Landmarks half marathon, and they said, will you do it? And I said, right, I'll do it. And then before you know it, you've got all the kit, everything's signed up for you. You don't have to think of anything else. You literally just have to turn up and do it. And it was really lovely. And it's just one of those moments when it's just great to connect with the team at Abigail's. And, it was in those pandemic years when things were on, off. And those little connections make all the difference, don't they? So it was lovely to be part of the Abigail's team as I staggered round.
Yeah, me too. I very much staggered round a couple of times, actually. Yeah, I mean, it is a great event. And you mentioned there the word team a couple of times. It really does feel like a team, or even more like a family, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, and actually that's the heart of it. Because it's interesting. In my line of work, you're very fortunate that you come into contact with a lot of charities and NGOs and big organisations. But the thing that really stands out for me about Abigail's is that even though it's impacted so many lives, the amount of training it's provided to midwives. I mean, thousands of midwives have seen the training film on bereavement that Abigail's produced. It never loses that sense of family. And even if I haven't seen the sort of gang at the heart of the charity for ages, you just immediately connect back with them when you see them. And I suppose we've all been, working together on and off for quite a long time now, really. So they all know, we all know the details about each other's families and what each other's, kids are doing. And it's always lovely to get back together. And, and David and Jo are the cement for all of that. It's the power of their own characters that pulls that off. It's the sort of magic at the heart of it, really, I think. That you've got this amazing couple who it would have been entirely understandable in that moment of devastation, losing Abby, to sort of, just need to keep things simple and calm and navigate that. And the fact that they took that moment and managed to create Abigail's Footsteps. I mean, I know I've said it before, but it just blows me away. They're incredible.
Julie, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Really appreciate it. I hope to catch up with you again soon.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for asking me to take part.
Thank you to all of my guests on this episode and everyone who's contributed to A Journey with Abigail's Footsteps. We hope you found their stories enlightening and inspiring. Unfortunately, many other families will experience baby loss, but the work of this charity will continue to ensure they have support and precious memories. Thanks for listening to A Journey with Abigail's Footsteps. If you'd like more information about Abigail's Footsteps or how you can make a difference by supporting or donating, please click abigailsfootsteps.co.uk or follow us on social media.
This has been an I Am Listening original podcast. For more information, head over to our website, im-listening.co.uk.